Hey guys, Captain Frober here reporting for duty. You know, Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze is a burning hot character that generated enough interest to get not one movie, but 2 movies. Nonetheless, it seems like he never did burn bright enough to get the same attention as Avengers or X-Men. You know, Ghost Rider was on the PlayStation 2. It's a self-contained game, but it does get its designs and inspiration from the original Ghost Rider movie. The storyline was penned by Marvel's Garth Ennis and Jimmy Palmiotti. Now, Ghost Rider is a third-person hack-and-slash style game that was released in February 2007, but it never did get the Xbox release that was planned. You can get this game for as little as $5 right now. But the question is it worth it? Well, watch this video and find out.
The plot of the story is pretty interesting. Mephisto tells Vengeance to bring the Ghost Rider to him. Vengeance pursues Johnny on his own hell cycle and captures him. Opening a fiery portal to hell in midair, in a fit of rage, Johnny becomes the Rider. Eventually he reaches the gates of hell. However, Mephisto appears and prevents his escape. He explains to Johnny that he's losing his grip on his demons. These demons are escaping hell and rampaging on the surface, and if not stopped, could trigger none other than the apocalypse. If his army cannot be kept under control, the angels of heaven have threatened to subsume Mephisto's kingdom. To prevent it, he recruits the Rider. Johnny dismisses him at first, though later Ghost Rider agrees when Mephisto sends Vengeance to kill Roxanne Simpson, forcing Blaze to kill Vengeance. Now, I don't want to give all the story away because it evolves and unfolds from there, but I will say eventually you even get to have Blade in the story as well, which is cool to have other Marvel heroes tied in. So with that said, let's talk about my thoughts about this particular game, shall we?
Is it hot or is it just me?
The backgrounds of this game were dark, and they really do fit the tone of the game as well as the character perfectly. Now with that said, many of the level's assets are reused, since the game has you going back through each level. But even with that said, it never really felt cheap or out of place, since it made sense within the story. The big negative I have on this game, or I maybe should say more of a nitpick, is the camera. Like many games of this type, the camera can hide enemies at times, making it easier for them to get a cheap hit on Ghost Rider. But if you are careful, you can avoid them. Some people may complain about the repetitiveness of fighting, but let's be honest, that's really common in these hack and slash style games, and we don't get any real difference here. It has the same amount of action, suspense, and you're going to be repeating moves, repeating combos and everything just like you would in any other fighting game. This game does have some really cool things that I really greatly enjoyed. As you play the game, you unlock characters and other things such as concept art, comics, and videos. You even unlock Blade, Ghost Rider 2099, Classic Ghost Rider, Vengeance after you complete the game. So different things will get different requirements to complete. You get most of them in just one pass through on the normal mode. If the player chooses to start the game again as Blade, you will get a slightly changed gameplay. Blade only has his Daywalker sword for a weapon. He does not have the shotgun or the chain link attacks of Ghost Rider, which once again makes sense since Blade doesn't have those things. Combo attacks are much more limited as well playing him. He does not replenish health by absorbing flames from the occasional fire drums scattered throughout the game levels like Ghost Rider did, but instead Blade can suck the life force from any wounded foe that is a non-boss. The differences will give you a little more reason to play this game through again. The game did use some similar features to God of War and Devil May Cry, so the controls should seem unoriginal. And we'll be honest, the style too as well. But to be fair, we can say that with most games today. We follow similar patterns for shooters, beat 'em ups and everything. The same buttons continue to do the same thing, so that really isn't a big issue to me. You'll do combos with your bare hands or the demonic chain by pressing different button combinations. Ghost Rider starts off with a number of attacks such as light and heavy strikes with his chains wrapped in hellfire. Now these can be strung together for combos, which also power up 2 separate gauges that let the rider pull off specialized attacks like shotgun blasts, which I found awesome, and radial energy attacks. There's just, to me, there's nothing like firing that shotgun in some demon's face.
Wow, I could really use some marshmallows right now.
As you play, you'll be filling up a spirit gauge that lets the rider enter retribution mode. This boosts his speed as well as his damage, and gives him the opportunity to perform his ultimate move known as the Penance Stare. If you don't know what the Penance Stare is, you just don't know who Ghost Rider is. Now I will say, if you take any hits, you'll automatically get knocked out of that mode, so you gotta make sure you're extra careful and deal all that massive damage. And it does look cinematically really cool. Now as you strike down your enemies, you'll receive souls for each demon you kill, which can be used to purchase new skills and abilities for the rider to use in the game. Very similar and almost identical in look and style as God of War. But what's more, if you manage to vary your attacks, you can increase your Vengeance bar, which will increase the number of souls you receive from down beast, as long as you do not take any damage from incoming strikes. There will also be enemies that you have to get a certain level of that on that bar before you can damage them. Now that we've talked about the graphics, the gameplay, let's talk about how this compares to other games that are similar.
Innocent blood has been spilt.
I often hear this game being dismissed as none other than just a God of War clone. And while that does have some merit, it does not necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. Let's be honest, God of War games are great. So with that said, this certainly does use many of the same mechanics and ideas, but it does add a bit more with the sections where you get to ride his hell cycle.
Ready for my penance stare?
One of the things that's different from God of War games is that this game does not have puzzles, which is fine by me, since they were really never the reason I played a God of War game in the first place. Seriously, does anyone play God of War for the puzzles? I would love to hear so. If you do, let me know in the comments. In my opinion, I think this game was a love letter to the character, and even though it lacked original gameplay, it had fantastic graphics, music, and the Hell Cycle stages are just plain out butt-kicking, flaming fun. I'll admit that I would not play it again right after I beat it, but I think I would like to pull it off the shelf again in a year or so and play it again with Blade or another character. This game did receive mixed scores, most were on the low side, but I think that may be due to the game coming out at the end of the PlayStation 2's life cycle, and people were moving on to new hardware. You know, I found the game to be fun and pretty darn impressive for the time, as well as I found myself happy to purchase it. If you like God of War style games, or even games like Road Rash, because you get a lot of that while riding the Hell Cycle, I think you may want to give it a try, especially if you're a fan of Ghost Rider. Myself, I give this game a solid B, and I definitely enjoy it, and I look forward to when I pull it off the shelf again and fire up that Hell Cycle and go for a ride. Well, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you do, please be sure to hit like and subscribe and help out the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Without you, this channel would not be possible, and I greatly appreciate every one of you. Thank you again, and until next time, keep frugal.